Okay, now we're going to do the CDL air brake leak test. We'll go ahead and crank the bus up. So turn it to the on position. We usually turn our headlights on and clip lights on at this point. Wait, the start is out, so we'll go ahead and crank it. Now, as we're doing this, we actually have cranked the bus up when the inspector is still off the bus checking our rear lights. Then they will come back up and we will open the door and let them back on, and then we'll close the door and we go through our indicator lights on the dash first thing to show that our turn signals on the dash are working, the high beam and low beam is working, and our four-way flashers. And we should have already gone through all of our gauges, or we could go that this time. And then we will explain to them the first thing that we're going to do is our air brake leak test. The first step of it, we have to have a fully charged system of 125 psi or manufacturer specs. We should be really there now. So at that point we'll tell them we've got a fully charged system. We're going to switch the bus off, switch it back on without cranking, and release the parking brake. We will have an initial drop in pressure. Now we're going to check and make sure that we have no more than a 3 psi drop in 1 minute while we apply 90 pounds of pressure to the service brake, and we'll ask them, will you please time me? They'll say go. We press firmly on the service brake and we have an initial drop in pressure, and you have to hold this for 1 minute. You should hear no air leaks and you should hear no sounds of air. If your foot slips off, you can tell them and say, I need to start over from the beginning. We're going to shorten this up. We're going to say time, that's 1 minute. Our results are we did not have more than a 3 psi drop in the 1 minute. We now want to check, make sure that we do have the key in the on position. Also, the fuel gauge will be registering on this bus when it's on to do our low pressure warning light and buzzer. And we're going to make sure it activates before 60 psi by fanning the brakes. So just start fanning the brakes. We have our low pressure and warning light came on before 60 psi. Now you can continue fanning here for us, and we're going to make sure the parking brake pops out between 40 and 20 psi. Parking brake popped out. Now we need to do the park brake hold test. And there's been a change here in the state of Georgia. We're now going to crank the bus up. And we have to build back up to a fully charged system of 125 psi. And I'm going to pause for a second while we build pressure, but we're going to build back up to 125 psi. And we'll do that by pressing on the accelerator to about 2,000 RPMs. Okay, we've almost got back up to the 125 psi for the fully charged system. Normally you will hear the little hiss sound from the evaporator when you get the fully charged system. Okay, we have our fully charged system. So now we'll shift to the lowest gear, put both hands on the steering wheel, press on the accelerator, 1001, 1002, release, and go back to neutral. And just give the results. The parking brake held, the bus didn't move. Now we need to do our service brake test. First we need to move the wheel chocks, but we'll just pretend that we've gotten off and got the wheel chocks moved. And to do the service brake test, we have to make sure again that we have a fully charged system of 125 psi, so we need to build it back up for just a second. Okay, we've got our fully charged system again. To do our service brake test, we're going to shift to our lowest gear. We're going to release the parking brake. We're going to pull forward at 5 miles an hour, apply firm brake pressure, and make sure the bus stops smoothly and doesn't pull right or left. Okay, the bus stopped smoothly, didn't pull right or left. We're going to shift back to neutral, apply our parking brake, switch the bus off and take the key out. And we always make sure we have our headlights off and clip lights off at this point. And this completes our air brake test. But sometimes they will allow you if you have forgotten something. So take just a second to make sure you've not forgotten any other part of the pre-trip. If you have, they may allow you to mention it this time. But if not, that would complete your CDL pre-trip. I hope this helped, and thank you very much.